And we are live.
All right, welcome everyone. Welcome Anthony. Welcome Jojobyte.
Yo.
Hello.
All right, I've got a lot of thoughts today. I have so many thoughts that I hope that it comes together in some kind of coherent manner. Sometimes it's a little scattered, and I hope this is a podcast that we can kind of discuss some of the things that I have in my mind and come to some come to some answers, at least get a right direction about how we're going to attract more developers. So if anybody hasn't developers to Dash, so building on Dash, both on the core product, which is payments, and like peer-to-peer cash system, and as well as Dash platform. This is, Dash incubator. This is kind of our job in a nutshell, is we're trying to incubate new projects, new people into the Dash ecosystem. And so obviously it's something I've given a lot of thought to, and I want to show the video that kind of describes the title of the show today. And I just realizing that I actually forgot to share my screen ahead of time. So forgive me while I go ahead and do that. And I also downloaded a new operating system. So I'm probably
Which operating system?
Do some things here. Oh, just a new Mac operating system. Okay.
Yeah, living that Mac life. I would find it hard not to at this point.
Oh no. Open system preferences. I should have tried this before, because my screen needs all sorts of system preferences permissions, I guess. So while I'm doing this, I just want to I'll open the question up to you two to discuss for a little bit. What do you think? You've both been kind of in the Dash scene for a little while. What's your impression so far? Do we have a lot of developers, a few developers, too many, too little? What's your overall impression, and how can we make it better?
I feel like I would be curious to hear Jojobyte's answer, since he's been in the community a lot longer.
So I think it's got to become a part of your normal tech stack. It can't be something like, to encourage developers to adopt Dash or cryptocurrency in general. There's got to be stuff that you like, tools you go to that you're familiar enough with, or that, have integrations into the frameworks you're familiar with, to actually want to use them. But if you're
sharing the screen right now,
not yet.
Okay, gotcha. Just checking. Sorry.
It's all right. If we don't have the tooling necessary, where you've got to do a lot of extra work and homework, and we don't have the terminology defined where someone could find it easily, or at least be directed to references. And this is where I can speak from my own experience. There's been a lot that CoolAJ86 has defined that helped out, but there's still things that he's included in the library documentation and whatnot that it's not all there. And going down that rabbit hole of trying to find out, what is this, like, why does it matter? And or even one of the things that comes to mind was recently, Rion, you and AJ and I were discussing the HD path stuff, and you had thought it was slightly different from what I had implemented, and I was like, I just did what AJ defined, so if it's wrong, like, I don't actually know, but if it's wrong, it's also working wrong. So like, we did a little bit of digging to find out, oh, actually no, AJ did it right, and it was a slight misunderstanding, and there's like a terminology in the HD path that's called use or use. I don't actually know which way, but I started calling it usage because that makes more sense to me. And AJ is like, yes, let's say usage from now on. because it defines the usage, whether it's a change coin or I don't actually know what the default is, but basically whether it's used for change or not. So it's the usage of the coin.
I think
so there's stuff like that where without having this defined in, like a good place, you've got to have the right mix of defined where it's relevant, but also not like, come drink from the fire hose. This is 8,000 pages of documentation. Like, good luck finding where to start. Like, you've got to have this. Well, I'm trying to use this library. Oh, this actually defines the terms in this library. I know where to go. And if I need to dig deeper, it's got some links to the right stuff. So I do think having the tooling, having the right documentation where you can learn more about it, like, that's important. And I think we have been doing a decent job of building on that, and we should probably pay some attention to that in our repositories, where we make sure we've got as much information as we can there without being overwhelming, or at least linking off to stuff where it might be overwhelming to contain it straight up in the README, but you might need this information type of thing. Go here for more information. So that's my feeling.
It's kind of complicated to get started, and good documentation, not too short, not too long, would be helpful. Anthony, any quick thoughts before I jump into?
Definitely some thoughts on the last part, because the way you handle this is you have to have the docs structured well. So you can have someone kind of go through a flow, and when they need to reference off something, they'll go to a reference page. But if they're working through like an example, so there's this thing called it used to be called Divio. It has a new name now. It's like a developer. It's a docs way of defining how you have 4 types of content. You have explanatory content, tutorial content, reference content, and then like tutorial content. And so sometimes you want to show how do you build a specific thing, or you're showing like how do you build in a way where you learn the thing. And then there's like just the API documentation itself. So that's where you can kind of get everything you need with that you're going to need, but you have to think of how you're going to structure your docs in the first place. But I feel like the Dash docs already do that pretty well, because it has the tutorial, then it has the kind of reference APIs. The place where it gets confusing is when you end up in a couple different like repos or SDKs, or you're using a library that's using like 4 other libraries. So you're not really sure if you have these 4 repos, but they're all just part of the Dash platform repo, then I don't really need to care about those repos. So the first couple times I was going through the docs, that was some of the stuff that I hit. So like removing things at this point in itself could be kind of useful, not necessarily like removing, but like making some stuff kind of less visible unless you really need to dig down into the components. Because like the point of the Dash platform JavaScript SDK is to kind of do a whole bunch of stuff for you. So I would say don't try and veer them off towards any library they're not going to do unless they're actually going to need it.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Both of you kind of touched on developer documentation and things like that. I was actually, what I had in mind was something even more fundamental, more core level. And that is developers want to see opportunity. If you see opportunity, then you will immediately be motivated to chase that opportunity. And one of the things that like got me very interested in this space in general, in the Dash space, was the opportunity to basically create a new economy where you could be earning this new cryptocurrency, like earning money in a new unit of account, a new monetary system, and then spending it in that new monetary system. And that cycle of basically how the world works. Like you go to work, you earn a paycheck, and then you spend that money on stuff. But doing that in a completely free market system that was basically not eliminating the regulations, because I don't like that framing, but just, yeah, sort of like that. Like there are so many barriers and so many blockers to working in the traditional economy that I think kind of snuffs out that opportunity. And so that's what I was most excited about with Dash, and I'm still excited about it. I just think that it takes a lot of motivation. Like you basically have to have fundamental ethical and philosophical convictions to really get through all the hurdles in the cryptocurrency space as well. And so that's what I'm trying to address with this topic today, is how do we break down those barriers to basically working in this new economy and seizing the opportunity that it could have. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. I love this. I love this little video from Steve Ballmer about attracting new developers. Like you can see the passion in his face. Obviously, he's paid a lot of money to do this, but
developers. Yes.
Okay, so if you don't know Steve Ballmer, I think actually don't know too much about this myself, like the backstory of this video, but it's like very popular in the developer scene. Have you seen it, Anthony?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, a bunch of times.
So he's a Microsoft guy, right? He was either CTO or CEO?
He was the CEO. He took over after Bill Gates was no longer CEO, and it was the era where everyone was like, Microsoft sucks, and then they got rid of him, and now Microsoft is ascendant.
Yeah, and Microsoft, they really like turned things around. They used to be that old kind of, dusty,
they were the evil empire
corporation that nobody really wanted to work for, but they really turned it around, and now they embraced open source. And they created a bunch of products that were really good for developers. And how did they do it? Go ahead, Jojobyte.
Created or bought a lot of products that were great for developers, like GitHub, for example.
Created or acquired, yes. They that's actually part of the point here. First of all, they focused on developers, making developers very happy, at least happier than they've been with the company before. And how they did that, the long story short, and what I say this a lot, so I'm going to keep it short, but a lot of Microsoft's funding ultimately comes from the VC and banking sectors. So they basically, they're able to print money and then use that money to acquire products or hire developers and create awesome experiences for developer experience, that kind of stuff. So how can we do that in the Dash scene? Like how do we focus on developers? We make it easy for them. You guys both mentioned better documentation. But I want to focus today on how do we, so on the receiving side of the developers thing, they paid developers, right? They paid them. That's really how you attract excellent developers, is you pay them good money and you give them great opportunities. So what I think the Dash community could use is a more streamlined process for developers to come to the DAO and seek funding for the things that they're trying to do. I know the process of submitting proposals and getting them through, but I don't think very many people do. So Anthony, you've never done this. Jojobyte, you've never done this. You've kind of been in the organization that I'm making, but I think what we need is more developers coming and competing with each other having more fine-grained proposals that MNOs can evaluate. So basically just bringing more developers into this ecosystem. So that's one of the things that I'm focusing on this quarter is recruiting more developers. But as I'm thinking about it, what I want to do is make it easy for them to create their own proposals. So one of the reasons that you're here, Jojobyte, is that you're going to be branching off from under my wing to having your own proposal, and you're going to be submitting that in a couple of days. So do you want to talk about that a little bit more, and why you're doing that?
Sure. So we've been thinking about breaking off Cool AJ and 86 and I and into kind of more of a library and front-end implementation. I guess he does some command line stuff too, but kind of break off implementation. And I don't know what you fully decided will be under your stuff, Ryan, but I kind of got the impression that you'll focus more on developer relation stuff, and we'll focus more on the like writing the libraries and like, kind of making sure the documentation is good and up to par, and then maybe some sort of implementation to show this does work. You are able to do that. And I think, for example, that's what the wallet started out as. The wallet UI is AJ had already built libraries to do it, and then he had made a command line version, but he doesn't like doing UI. So it kind of went where if you like using a command line, you can use what AJ built, but if you don't, you can't really see that this is working. And so we've started building this wallet user interface so that you could actually interact with the libraries and see that they work. And there's other stuff that we've experimented with that we can show, like these libraries are good, not like for Dash, but like they implement the standards. They work for other cryptocurrencies. They, there are like things that are in the Bitcoin standard that this will work for Bitcoin, even though it's for Dash and written for Dash. AJ's made sure to build these libraries so they're compatible, so long as Dash stays compatible with Bitcoin, they're backwards compatible. So there's all sorts of stuff that we can demonstrate for usage. And we kind of want to build those things. And especially like the CoinJoin stuff that AJ has been working on, we want to get that implemented in the wallet UI. So you're not just, fingers crossed, trusting that AJ made it and it works. You can actually, put whatever amount of Dash you want into the wallet UI and, test CoinJoin, see if it works, see how it does, like see how it compares to the Dash Core wallet or whatever else. Like, so we will have that hopefully soon. That's part of what will be included in this proposal, is to get that fully implemented, the libraries fixed up. And I'm sure once I get to the implementation of it in the wallet UI, we might have some fixes that we need to do inside of the library. So AJ might have to circle back and do those fixes. So this will include the work for those features and demonstrating that they're functional. And hopefully we'll also have some budget to maybe do some smaller stuff where it's not just like, here's the whole wallet UI. Like, here's a demo that just uses the CoinJoin stuff that you can drop your phrase in and CoinJoin coins without needing the other stuff. So there's stuff like that we're still trying to figure out what all should be included in this, but those are the things we're kicking around. So,
okay, cool. Yeah. And you haven't done the process yet of submitting a proposal. I'm going to help you do that. And I'm in that process. I'm going to actually also share, like basically make a video of how to submit a proposal. I think that there are some out there that exist, video tutorials of how to do this, but I want to do it again because I think they might be outdated if they are, and I think I have quite a bit of experience doing this that I could show what I think is a good way to do this. And then along with that, I'm going to propose that we make this process even more streamlined. So part of the reason that I want to show the current process is to show how difficult it is if you don't even know where to start, and how much easier it could be if we integrated this into either integrated it into our web wallet or created a new application that could live on the subdomain of our web wallet. So like proposal.incubator.dev or something like that. And that could potentially be created with a different application structure than what we have at wallet.incubator.dev. But those are, I haven't really finalized that what I want to do, but I'm just going to go over real quick the current process and how I do it. There are other ways. You can do this as low level as you want, but I think the easiest way so far is you go to this site, proposal.dash.org, and then you put in some information here, and then you create proposal. It's fairly streamlined process, but what the problem with this is that this application right here doesn't have an integrated wallet. So instead of that, what you end up doing is you have to fill out these forms, and then it gives you some hexadecimal strings that you then paste into your core wallet. And that's a several step process. You do the prepare, and then you wait for confirmations, and then you submit another one, and then you finalize the proposal. And I'll go through this in a separate video, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing today. But after you do that whole thing on this site, then you would go over to something like, you would go over to dashcentral.org, you'd sign up, you'd log in, and then you would claim the proposal that dashcentral.org sees on the network. So if you go here to budget, then you'll see the existing proposals. And after you've done one of these dash budget proposals, you would then see something like this. So this Paulinus no title entered by proposal owner, this is kind of midway through the process. So when Dash Central sees a new proposal on the network, because they're running a Dash client in the background, and then they're surfacing the proposals that it sees onto their user interface, and then you're able to claim the proposal. So if I go here, I don't know if this has been claimed yet or not. If it's not, then you would see a button here, I think is here, that says claim this proposal. So it already has been claimed by this guy, but he hasn't filled out the proposal. And that would be the final step is filling out the text of that proposal. Now, I think this whole process could be streamlined by having one application where you both enter all this stuff, you pay for it right here on the site in the application, and you compose the proposal right here on all in one application instead of 3 or 4 different steps. So that's the goal. The goal is to get developers like Steve Ballmer was chanting here. And that's how we do it, I think. Just to wrap it up, like to summarize, developers need to and want to get paid. Now, they can either work directly for the Dash DAO, or they can just, they can create a project that's separate where they're trying to get income elsewhere. And
I was kind of curious, like if what are some things that are people getting paid to do right now, and what are things that people could do to get paid that is not being done?
Well, so yeah, the overall entrepreneurial process is that you identify a market need, and then you create a product to fill that market need. Now, specifically with Dash, there's different ways to work and earn money in Dash. You can work for what I call and what I think of as the primary market, which is working directly for the protocol. That's what we all are doing right now under my Dash incubator proposal. But there's also, you can just create a product that like any old SaaS product and try to get revenue by paying customers. I don't personally think that Dash has much to offer in that line right now. I think that we have a lot of protocol level work that still needs to be done in order to make the Dash economy more of an opportunity. So I don't know if that probably didn't answer your question, Anthony, but what are you thinking?
Well, that's why I was kind of curious to get your thoughts, because I think it definitely makes sense. Like if you want to get developers, the way that is usually with a SaaS is like, how do I make them X amount more productive so that they can pay me this amount and it gains them this much margin kind of thing. Whereas you're kind of saying, how do we make this something where a person can actually invest in it and invest in it like they're investing in themselves, because they're building something that they're also directly getting the funding from itself. So I like that. I think that's a good way to frame it. And I don't know, do we need like a Dash product hunt or something like that?
It could be, but it doesn't. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a Dash product hunt. It just like product hunt itself is good enough. And the question is, does Dash have any kind of infrastructure, whether that's the three things that I always talk about, storage, payments, authentication, that could help developers in their products that they're building? Part of the problem is that very few people actually own Dash to be able to spend Dash, and that
is a bit of an issue.
That's the big problem that is really the biggest problem in any cryptocurrency is how do you get a circular economy? I actually had queued up a video that I guess it'd be a good time to touch on right now, just because I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I wanted to bring it up as a topic because I think it relates here. Just a few days ago, this is a YouTuber that I follow pretty closely. His name is Rebel Capitalist is what he goes by. And he just recently, so he's been going on lots of like worldwide tours to try to see if it's possible to transact outside of the system, outside of the fiat economies like dollars and whatever fiat currency exists in a specific region. So he went down to El Salvador, for example, found out that basically nobody is using Bitcoin like they say they're using Bitcoin. And then he just recently, like this is what, 1 day ago, he just recently went to an area in the Caribbean. I can't remember exactly. I think St. Kitts was part of it, where Roger Ver is doing a lot of his work and living. And I'll just play a little bit of this just to give you a flavor of what he found. And then I'll talk about after how this relates to the topic today. So I'll go ahead and just play a couple minutes maybe.
Here you go, maps.bitcoin.com. And you look at this and you're like, oh my gosh, Bitcoin Cash is taking over the world. Look at all these places that I can go and spend my Bitcoin Cash. I mean, it is obviously a medium of exchange, and it's growing exponentially. And in 2 or 3 years, I mean, I'm going to be able to go to any country I want on the entire planet, and I'm going to be able to live entirely outside of the system via Bitcoin Cash. That's what this map implies. But when I looked at this map, I was a little skeptical, but optimistic. Like, wow, because I used that other app that is specific to Bitcoin when we were in Argentina. Most of you remember that. And that was extremely frustrating. But you didn't have as many people saying they accept it, as many vendors, as many businesses. Like in Mendoza, as an example, the first place we went in Argentina, there was about 15 places that said they accepted Bitcoin. Not Bitcoin Cash, but Bitcoin. And as you guys know from watching the videos, it turned out to be goose egg. Not 1, not 2, 0 out of 15. And that was pretty much the entire experience throughout the trip. But there wasn't that many per city. Like going over to Cordoba, it was maybe 5 or something. So when I clicked on this map, I got excited. I'm like, okay, well, again, I'm a little skeptical based on our Argentina trip, but maybe this is different. So I zoomed in on St. Kitts, and I zoomed in on where I am here in St. Bart's, and then in St. Martin, and I just went through this exact process. So here is Gustavia, where I am right now in St. Bart's. As you can see, there's a couple vendors here. One we went and tried to use them for breakfast this morning. But look at St. Martin. Look at this. 54, 6, 14, 21, 14, 2, 18. And so this is the Danish side of St. Martin. So if you click on this, it zooms in. Look at all these vendors that are accepting Bitcoin Cash. I'm like, well, someone's got to take it. And if you were there, again, this could be a potential solution for you. So we got there and we started clicking on all these. And what's interesting is you see probably, I don't know, let's just say 50 or so vendors just right in this little area. And by the way, it's super easy to walk just from here to here. But a lot of them are jewelers and clothing shops. But we found about 6 or 7 restaurants. And the first thing that we wanted to do was eat because it was around lunchtime. So we started going to the cafes. The first cafe we went to, I'm not going to. So here's one problem with the map. And this is where we start getting into some of the issues. What I've experienced with the tech side of this, with the wallets, I got all these people, oh, you got to use this wallet, you got to use that wallet, blah, 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 blah. Look, that's great, but most of these things, that when you actually try them, they don't work. And like this, we would try to go to a place and it really wasn't correct on the map. And then the phone number didn't work, the address was wrong. And then getting the map to actually work on your phone, especially when you don't have high-speed internet, is almost impossible. It doesn't zoom in, it's glitchy.
Okay, that's enough. I think we won't go. Basically, how he wraps this up, he talks about this for another 10, 15 minutes, and the end of the story is that even though a lot of these places on the map they didn't really work out, he talked to the people there, and like the merchants themselves, like, do you accept Bitcoin Cash? Most of them did not, and most of them said, well, nobody came and was wanting to spend their Bitcoin Cash. And then he finally found one that actually did work, that they actually did say, yes, we accept Bitcoin Cash. Let's do this. And then the wallet failed, or not the wallet, the network failed, and to get a confirmation to say that the actual payment went through. And so basically another goose egg, 0 successful experiences with accepting crypto. And so it makes me wonder, like, after all these years, what is the solution? I mean, part of the solution is obviously a better developer experience, like better maps, more accurate information, data, and better overall infrastructure for the payments, the wallets, just better things that developers could help with. And so that's why I say there's a lot of work to be done at the infrastructure, at the base level, before this economy can even start, really. And that's why I think, like, working directly for the protocol, building these low-level tools, including accurate data maps and things like that, is very, very important. That's what we have to start with before we can start building secondary economies on top of the primary markets. And so that requires a lot of developers, and developers need to be paid. And how do they get paid? Submitting proposals to the Dash DAO is what I'm suggesting is the best way to help this economy move forward at this point, at this time, building these low-level infrastructural type things. So making that process easier for them is now to bring it back to, making that proposal process streamlined, I think is the key to bootstrapping this economy. So I know that was kind of a lot of material there. Jojobyte, like, there's applications that you could build to make better maps. We do have better maps than Bitcoin.com's map in terms of accuracy. Like AnyPay historically has had a very good app that actually updated itself when actual payments were made, so that you wouldn't get all these false positives, stuff like that. But again, to just bring it back, the whole proposal process needs to be easier, so that those capable developers that can make great experiences can come in and easily propose work for the Dash DAO. Any thoughts on any of that, guys? Either of you?
Well, I think based on what was it, Rebel Capitalist? Is that who that was? But based on that video, one of the things that sounded like it was a problem was when you're in a country or an area that doesn't have good connections, that are slow, maybe you're even on 2G or 3G still, and you're not on 4G or 5G, the size of the libraries you're using really matters. Like, that's going to matter. And having libraries that will, transpile or compile down to a very minimal size is actually crucial for those types of applications. And that is something we've already been focusing on in the incubator, is at least for if you want to make a payment and you want to accept Dash, or so either make a payment or receive a payment, we've got libraries that should transpile down. And I guess I haven't tested this in a while. Maybe that's worthwhile doing, is having a Vite example of these libraries, bundled down to see what they get to, because we're not doing that so that we don't have a build step in what we're doing right now, so that you're seeing the actual code that's there. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. But when you're building an actual product, you probably want that minified and gzipped and all of that stuff. And we're not really showing what you can get out of these libraries, but we should be able to get a lot more than the unminified, fully, line and code comments and all of that. Like, with those stripped out, you should be able to make payments or receive payments in, I would assume, under 200 kilobytes of code, likely even smaller. You might be even able to get it under 50 or smaller based on what you're trying to do. And that will matter depending on where you are. I mean, it'll matter even if you're, in the best cell connection area you could think of. The less you have to download and transmit, the better. Mm-hmm. And so I think there are use cases here that can be very well served by developers, that, especially if you're not in America, if you're in one of these areas and you have an idea for something that can improve your community, if you could get funded through either the incubator or directly from the Dash proposals, that would be great if we've streamlined that, where, I forget the islands he was saying, but if someone there is like, hey, it says we support all of these things and no one actually supports the cryptocurrency, I want to make X product that I think will improve that scenario. Like, it might be cheaper for them, so they might be able to submit a proposal that's only $500 USD worth, and it might be worthwhile for them to build that, where someone living in the US can't even, pay their rent for that amount.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, like, I think that would be great if we can streamline this process of proposals. And I know to what you were showing earlier, I because I'm working on this proposal myself, I just recently signed up for Dash Central and the Dash Forum and stuff like that. And I think the forum step is kind of bizarre to me, that you don't actually submit it to Dash Central. You have to submit it on the Dash Forum or something.
The network itself, yeah. There are different places for different steps in the process. So yeah, just making that a very streamlined process. I'm surprised it hasn't happened until still, but that's how we initially get more developers to do this. And Anthony, one of the things that I'm going to be focusing with you on is reaching out to Web 2 developers that have a lot of skill in just creating great Web 2 products. And all that Web 3 is just like additional, basically, I would say it's 90% a Web 2 product, and 10%, at least that's the ideal that we're going for, is to make it so that basically anybody who's a Web 2 developer can use this and that SDK, and now they're storing data on Dash platform, or they're using payment Dash for payments, things like that, to make it Web 3 product. But it's going to be 90% Web 2 stuff, and reaching out to them, and we have to have a very easy process for them to build an application, and now it can work in the Web 3 context, and have the payments through Dash and storing data on Dash platform, for example, getting paid for that through the treasury. Like, we need to make it a lot easier for them. Any thoughts on that? I've rambled a lot today. Closing thoughts from you, Anthony, and then I'll leave it to you, Jojobyte, to talk about one last time, to just give people an idea of what your plans are for the proposal that you're going to submit. So, Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, I need to check out some proposals, I think, in general, and kind of read some over, and see if I can kind of come up with some ideas of something I would want to do and build, because that would be a good just test case, if I just decide to do a proposal as well. So seems like the thing to do. Yeah.
Jojobyte?
So as far as the proposal I'll be working on, to reiterate, it will cover the remaining CoinJoin work for the library that CoolAge86 has been building, and it will cover implementing it in the wallet UI that I've been working on. And it will likely also cover the third-party integrations that we want to implement into the wallet UI, those being CrowdNode, is it CTX, the thing Ash, for what is it, gift cards. So we want to get that integrated. And then I think as well, Maya, I don't know if all of that will fit into this initial proposal, but I also think there's something else that AJ may want to work on that I don't have in my list yet. I think we had discussed it, but we will try to include those things, so we're showing what we want to do. And then I think we might want to try and plan this out a bit more and show what we're working on, show the progress a little bit better. I'm not sure how yet we'll accomplish that. We've kicked around a few ideas, but we might try to keep that where you can get status updates as we're working better than like eventually doing a incubator weekly. Hopefully anyone interested in this stuff will be able to just like follow along and go, oh, these things are complete. Sweet, I can test it out right now. So we want to improve that experience for the MNOs that are voting on this stuff, so that they can see they're actually getting the bang for their buck type of thing. So yep.
Yeah, and we had done something like that with the wallet, where you have a GitHub project that basically lays out all the tasks ahead of you and behind you and that you're working on right now. So doing that for these other projects that you're working on, such as the CoinJoin stuff, is what you're referring to. So I think you're going to try to get this proposal up in the next couple of days, so that people can expect to see that.
Correct.
And yeah, then we'll go from there. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I know this was a little bit of a scatter shot of different thoughts, but hopefully some of it made sense. I want to attract more developers into Dash. I think that we need to make that process as easy as possible. Having one application where you can go from idea to proposal on the network very easily is the goal. And so that's something that I'm going to be working on. And working on with Anthony. I'm going to be reaching out to other developers to test out our wallet, our web wallet, test out Dash platform, and see if they're interested. And if they're not interested, why they're not interested. Just getting that honest feedback of, yeah, it doesn't, I'm not interested in Dash for this and that reasons, or I am really interested for this and that reasons. So we'll move forward with that. And thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.